Hey everyone, Future here. Today we're going to do a little bit of a follow-up to the previous video about TouchDesigner. If you haven't seen that video, it would be advisable to check out. It's about making a mute button in TouchDesigner. And today we're going to expand that functionality a bit by adding some effects, adding a volume slider, and neating everything up a little bit because it was a bit of a mess. So what we're going to work on today is we are going to make a mute button, and now we have some sound going out over the other microphones. I will switch to that. We will also add volume control to that, so we can actually lower the volume or boost the volume of this microphone, or even completely mute it basically. And lastly, I want to make it so that we can activate and deactivate a delay if we want to. So that's really fun. So this is going to be a little bit more comprehensive than the previous video. And for that reason, it's smart to check out the other video if you're not very familiar with TouchDesigner, because you're going to get lost. Let's get to it. And actually the best way to get to it is by starting a new project. And here we are in a new project. It's very important to run the experimental build of TouchDesigner. Now the experimental build obviously is experimental, so it may have some issues. That's to be expected, and I'm pretty sure it will get better. So far I haven't had too many weird issues, so it should be alright. The basis of this project is the same as our previous project. So if you still have that project, you can simply use it. If you want to add modules, you can press the tab key. That will bring up this dialog. Make sure you're in the green section, the job section. And if you are looking for any modules, you can just type in the name. So we start off with a audio device in. This is essentially where your sound comes in, and we set this to the microphone we want to use. In my case, that's the, there it is, Pentronics. And we want to connect this to an output. So we right click on the green thingy to open a dialog box and select a audio device out, and we want to output it to our virtual cable. So that's the cable input. That's the first part. Now we are going to recreate the other parts. That's the on-off button. So I'm going to make a count. I'm going to link the count to a null. I'm just going to place it underneath to keep everything fairly aligned. And now we are going to make some changes. So we still set this one to loop between 0 and 1. But this is where we're going to do some new things, because I want to actually assign the MIDI controller in a more meaningful way to make sure that we get less chaos in our MIDI tracking. So the way we are going to do that part is by going to Dialog, MIDI Device Mapper. And here we are going to create a new mapping. And we are going to select our controller, which is the TD in this case. And instead of leaving it here, we are going to go to Devices and add a new device. And go to User Device. That's mildly annoying. You have to delete all these channels. And go to Buttons and delete all of these. So with that out of the way, we can actually start to assign some knobs and sliders. So let me grab the camera again, so you can actually see what I'm doing on the controller, which is kind of useful. All right, here we have the controller. Move over the mapping window. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to use this slider here for our volume control. So we want to assign this, so we can move the slider. And you will see that it is tracking some MIDI messages down there. So we're going to click on the add channel, and we are going to take that message. So that's B000. And then we want to take the value that's behind it, so we place 2 dashes. That's all we need to do to track this slider. And we want to use 2 buttons, so we go to buttons. And the easiest way to do this is click the clear log. And we want to assign this button and this button. So we start with this button, we press it. There we go. We click the add channel. The first message is the on message, so that's B027F. And the off message is the second one, is B02000. Clear our log, add a channel, and we press the second button. And the second button gives us B0217F and B02100. Now we need to go back to device mappings. And in MIDI map, we are going to select user device map. Now we can close this dialog, press tab, and now we are going to take the MIDI in map. So you can see here it has a slider and 2 buttons. Right click on the thingy, make a select. Our first button is going to be the mute button. So you take the first button, throw it in here. Now if I press the first button, it will count. And we can press this little star thingy. Go to the audio device out, click before active. Grab and drop. And let me quickly throw off the camera. So you want to drag and drop it here. And select export chop. And now we have our mute button again. Albeit a little bit neater than previously. So it's as simple as that. So let's now assign the slider. So the way we do this is we are going to press tab. We're going to make a new select. Let's just throw it underneath. Let's drag and drop from the MIDI map. We are going to select the channel name as 1. That's our slider. So now if we move our slider, you will see we get a value. And we want to have the ability to change the volume. And I want to be able to change it both higher and lower than the default. So we're going to right click this. We are going to select a math. And this allows us to manipulate the value of the select. And in the map, we are going to choose for range. And currently the range is from 0 to 1. So the slider to the top is 1, the slider to the bottom is 0. And we're going to change it to 0 to 2. So at the bottom is still 0 and at the top is 2. We can right click this, make a null. Press the white thingy again. Go here, go to volume. Before volume, click the little plus button. Drag and drop. Export chop. And now when we move the slider, so let me quickly get back the camera. Here's the camera. Let me move this over a little bit so you can actually, oh, that's annoying. Just going to move the camera. There we go. So now if you keep your eye on the volume, when we move the slider, it will go up. It will go to 1. And then it will exceed 1 all the way to 2. And then we can move it back 0 to 2. So that's our volume control. So let me get the camera out of the way again. Now let's move on to the next part. So this is pretty simple because now we can press the first button and we can mute or unmute our signal, assuming we have some volume. So now it's unmuted, now it's muted. But I also want to be able to add some effects to the audio stream. And for this it is essential that you are using the experimental build, because only the experimental build allows the use of VSTs. So first off, we're going to make a new select. Drag from the MIDI map into the selects, and this is going to be assigned to button number 2. So we select the button number 2. It only tracks the button number 2, so every time I press the button 2, it will do this thing. Now I'm going to do the same trick as with the mute button. I'm going to make a count. Some MIDI controllers will have the option to hold buttons, in which case it's not important to do this step. This MIDI controller doesn't by default, so I simply do it this way. We select the limit, loop min max 1. And now if we press the second button, we will have a toggle as well. Right click, make null, and there we go. So now we have a second button, and when we press it, we will get a 1 or a 0. Now to add the effects, we are actually going to right click on this little cable and select insert. And the thing we are going to do now is we are going to use a merge. Because right now our microphone is mono and some effects demand a stereo signal. So what we can actually do is make a stereo signal by taking the audio device in and merging it into itself, and now we have 2 channels. So if we use a stereo effect, it will now use a stereo input instead of a mono input. Behind this merge, we're going to right click the cable again, insert operator, and we are going to choose for the audio VST. And we are going to place it right there. And as you can see, we now have a stereo chain all the way down. And you have a little red cross here, and that's because we need to select a VST. So with the audio VST selected, we are going to click next to the file. And you are going to have to browse to your VST folder. It has to be said that not every VST is equally stable. Some will be a little bit jumpy. I found the unfiltered audio stuff to be very stable, so I'm going to use the unfiltered audio Sandman Pro delay for this little test. And what I'm going to do next is use this button to control the effect in an on and off state. So we are going to go to plugin. Here you have a bypass. So make sure to have this one, the white plus thingy selected. Then next to bypass, click the plus, and once again, drag, drop, export chop. Now let me get back my camera. Let me move it over again. Very professional this. So when we press this second button, you will now see it toggles the bypass on or off. It's that simple, really. Now to let you hear the effect, and this is going to be a bit annoying for me because it's going to create a feedback loop to me, so I'm going to talk to myself and annoying stuff like that. I'm just going to make another audio device out. And this will be connected to my headphones, so I can now hear myself. So let me change the sound to my headset.
So right now we are on the headset. So this is very annoying for mine. So we can now control the volume down and up. So if we go all the way down, we don't get any output. And if we go up, we get a lot more output. So that's nice. Let's center that again. And now we can activate the delay. So this is going to be even more annoying. So here we go. We have a delay. And we can change the settings here. So for instance, we can make a ping pong, delay. Can change the time. This is pretty fun. Let's change the width. 1 to 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 1 in the output signal. And there we go. And now when we press this button, it will bypass, and everything is alright again. So there we go. So let me quickly bypass that.
So that's a pretty simple way to use VSTs in a chain. Have a mute button and have a external volume control. And because you are outputting this to a virtual cable, you can use this in any program you want. So you can use this in Discord, or you can use this in Skype or Teams, or really any program. So you can mess around with your colleagues by adding noise generators and pretending like you're driving into a tunnel or something. I don't know. Use responsibly, I would say. And that concludes our second little flash tutorial of TouchDesigner and using it in a bit of a different way, but I think it's a very nice way to use it. So if you have any questions, you can of course drop them down below. If this all went a little bit fast and you haven't checked out the first video, I would highly recommend you doing that, because I go a lot slower in that video. I'm going to assume that you have seen it and you kind of know what's going on. So definitely check that out if this was a bit too fast and a bit too confusing. I do have another video planned for this, where we go into some other things we can do with this, both in effect change and in control. I'm actually going to build up to allowing you to control a stream with a MIDI controller like this one. This, by the way, is a Korg Nano Control 2, in case anyone is wondering, but it's also here on the little thingy. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please leave a like. If you have any feedback, let me know. And if you want to see more of my actual music and stuff like that, make sure to check out my Instagram. That's it for now. I'm going to wish you a great day.